catches dew to water crops in a desert?
Who's growing strawberries with brackish water?
Whose covenant still stands between the God of Israel and Abraham our forefather?
What land has the sweetest figs with no rain since March on the last of September?
Who tells us to watch our backs for Amalek and urges us to remember?
Who gives the world advancements in medicine
And is the first on the scene to assist?
Who tries to warn civilians of retaliation when they're fighting against terrorists?
Whose irrigation system drips with success?
Who has disease-resistant bananas?
Who reaches out to help the world's food supply?
Still grateful to God for His manna.
Who hangs a wedding dress on their visitor center, reminding us the bridegroom is coming?
Who has used songs and smells to drive back attackers, and without taking a life, sends them running?
What other nation came from completely exiled to restored from all ends of the earth?
Who in the world was given the knowledge to take salt out of seawater first?
Who makes the blind read with technology?
Using glasses,
an earpiece,
and your finger.
Who uses solar power so effectively?
Making all the world's resources linger?
What country per capita has the most scientists, technicians, and engineers?
Who has turned their garbage into compost,
recyclables,
and biogas for years?
What other land produces 95% of what it needs, with only 20% of land suitable for plowing and planting seeds?
Whose God shows their visitors double rainbows over the waters of Galilee?
And in her airports hang signs of their joy of my coming.
To welcome all people like me.
Who took advantage of the last swarm of locusts to gather a delicacy?
Whose nation's doctors treat the injuries of terrorists no different than their citizenry?
Who are the possessors,
not the occupiers,
according to God's divine word?
Whose voice is crying out in the wilderness over all the deceptions you've heard?
Who is attacked by all the uninformed in the world on the charge
that they simply exist?
And is strengthened and unified despite the attacks because they know that their God is in the midst.
Who's built the best defense force the world's ever known to defend what's rightfully theirs?
Who has replaced every item to restore their temple down to all the clothes their priests wear?
Whose minister of defense assured Jerusalem is not up for negotiation?
What tribe of this land did Messiah come to offer me my salvation?
Who poured out favor on the prime minister when world leaders planned for defeat?
The God of Israel gave the house of Jacob
Netanyahu's seat.
No other land has blessed all families of the earth.
All others pale.
No other people can teach God's word like the ones from Israel.
I was inspired by my first trip at the end of September last year.
Puddles of rain came after the 8th day of Sukkot. We serve a mighty God who hears.
Who can deny the God of Israel?
He never slumbers.
He never is lips.
I am encouraged.
I'm encouraged.
I'm encouraged.
By the covenants
He keeps.
You just learned a portion of the truth about the world's most volatile region, the world's most demonized country, and the 2,000-year hatred of a people that have survived despite the odds. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. If there's one thing history has taught the Jewish people, a place they can go in time of need is essential, and Israel fulfills that role. But the need for a Jewish state is not limited to being only a refuge for Jews. Jewish tradition in Israel grants full rights for women and people of all races, faiths, and gender. This tradition is what often makes Israel among the first countries to send doctors and field hospitals to any place where a natural disaster occurs, utilizing their medical advances to save lives worldwide. Muslims, Christians, and people of every faith, or those of no faith, have the freedom to worship or not worship as they choose. For Muslims, the Jewish state goes out of its way to provide this freedom. For example, every Israeli university gives students the option of deferring their exams during the month of Ramadan. The Knesset calls off all sessions at sunset during Ramadan to ensure that Muslim Knesset members can break their fasts with the traditional iftar dinner. In an open and democratic manner, opportunities for education, advancement, and careers exist for all citizens in the Jewish state. Sadly, such rights and opportunities do not exist in any of the Muslim Arab states. For example, in neighboring Jordan, Jews cannot become citizens. And in Saudi Arabia, no non-Muslim can become a citizen. Saying that Israel must cease to exist as a Jewish state while accepting that other countries define themselves as Muslim is pure hypocrisy. In most of these countries, no rights exist for non-Muslims, women, and the LGBT community. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org.